Good morning, Rob. Welcome to another episode of Laneway Talks. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good morning to you, Vince. How are you?
Well, it's good being back after a couple of weeks of hiatus and recharging the batteries, and off we go again.
Yes, well, fit and healthy this week, like last week.
Something to start off this week is there was the ABC documentary, which did you watch on Live Nation?
The one you sent me?
Yeah, it was on.
Yes, I did.
Four Corners.
Yes.
I think Monday, Tuesday, whatever. So you watched the show, did you?
I've read the blurb about it. I was reading this morning.
Oh, okay. So you haven't watched it? No, big.
No.
Anyway, quite laughable. A complete beat up on Live Nation. I'm not suggesting either way. Should we beat up or shouldn't we? That's not what, but it was a beat up on Live Nation. A lot of incorrect facts in there by the journalist, which probably goes back to, she probably wouldn't have been out of 30. I would have thought maybe mid to late 20s.
Investigative journalism is not what it used to be.
Yeah, and had a bit of a stint on there where they went in and did a lot of investigation into the Freedom of Information paperwork to see what grants had been given to Live Nation, that kind of stuff. But
okay.
One of the biggest faux pas when she says, she was talking about Frontier, interviewing Chuggy, and talking as if Frontier was still Frontier. Well, Frontier, to my knowledge base, is no longer owned by Dundas Lane. It's either AEG or TEG, one of the two, who then own Ticketmaster. So you got Ticket Tech, which is owned by Live Nation, Ticketmaster, who's owned by the other one, and one of those big international venue owners owns Frontier too. So, a lot of that information was just completely wrong. I just couldn't believe it. But anyway, we will, I think, one of the bands interviewed was talking about how they, a young band, well, they weren't young guys, but, they're a young band in the sense just starting to get success, and they'd done a tour, I presume, with Live Nation, and had grossed $100,000, and their net profit was $9,000. What I can say to bands like that is, you don't have to do the tour with Live Nation. Why would you have to do it with Live Nation? Do you not have a manager who knows what they're doing and scrutinises all those costs prior to the tour happening? Or are you telling me... Sorry, go on, Rob.
That was the all-girl band, wasn't it?
No. It was Badass or Bad Arm or... I don't know. Some name. It's the band. They sounded quite good, what I heard. Band, no big deal there. But to sit there and complain that you didn't make money and that Live Nation are controlling the whole industry, on the live scene, from ticketing to venues to promotion, is farcical. I mean, I just think I couldn't believe, if there's any acts out there that want advice, you just contact me, because there is no way at that level you needed to be with Live Nation. There's a lot of other venues that, you go to Melbourne, so they own the Palais and a couple of other things, but there's plenty of other venues to do your gigs at. You can actually do them yourself. You don't need an international promoter. But I know what would happen here is you would be swept up in the euphoria of it's Live Nation who want to tour us, right?
Yeah, I think you've got to be aware of the levels that Live Nation function the best at. And I think if you're a smaller act, you're going to get taken to the cleaners, really, ain't you?
Well, yeah, if you've
got no one to negotiate for
you can go through all the costs. Remember we went through 101 finance the other week?
Yeah.
You've got to have your basic financial skills, or have a manager or someone that that can go over it for you. It isn't difficult. You look at all the costs in there. You make sure you know what you're signing for. I mean, one of the big things I was talking about was ticketing and how you pay $65 for the ticket, and then there was an extra up to $30 to $40 extra, $30 to $40 in extra costs, or $3 to $7 in extra costs, type thing. in all these extra charges. Well, you look at all of that, don't you? And you look into your ticketing, because whenever we do shows, we look into the ticket price and we say, right, it's $40 a ticket. What are the on costs? If it's simply $3.70 for a transaction charge, I don't agree with it, but, okay, that's that. But if there's suddenly a ticketing charge, an administration charge, there's just no way I'm going to go with that ticketing agency.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's got to be covered. They should have one charge to make their money. So anyway, I thought the show, and there's another one on Guvera next Tuesday on SBS, which will be worth watching, because I know a lot about what went on there, because that was around the Shock days when I was at Shock, and Guvera were talking about taking over and, yada, 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 and went completely bust. It was money oozing out the sizes. Everybody was on a, bender, no doubt about it. Too much money, not enough action. So, yeah, look, I thought this one was a beat up on Live Nation, and then they'd also complained about Live Nation getting $8 million in government grants when they're a commercial organisation that's made $500 million plus profit worldwide. Well, what I say to that, Rob, is that Live Nation's fault, or is that the government for giving it out?
Probably the government, really. It's the process wasn't vetted correctly.
You've spoken about it on many occasions, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
Right.
That process needs to be a lot more transparent, because you don't know. I mean, I see it all the time over here. There's a couple of instances where the government just hands out money. It's jobs for the boys. That's the phrase that is most common, I think, to use for things like that.
Yeah, well, what we do as a journalist, we beat up the company that has applied for the money legitimately because it's available.
Yeah.
But there's no beat up on the government for giving it to those organisations that don't need it. So, we really cocked that one up, that's for sure. It just goes to show you, I would never do an interview. I'm telling you that now, Rob. I would never do an interview with journos about stuff. They're just not. They haven't researched or don't have the experience within the industry. Well, anyway, that was my take on that. So I thought that was well worth talking about, because if anybody did watch it, I mean, overseas you're not going to watch it, but local people would have. It was on our national broadcaster, and it was a farcical 30 minutes. I had a chuckle every step of the way. Okay?
Yeah, you sent me the rundown of it, because there was sort of like a press release of it or something.
Yeah.
You sent me, and that's what I read through, which pretty much covered what you were talking about. But it is, I think, very naive of the band, and a beat up of a Live Nation. I mean, Live Nation, a big company, and there's a lot of carry on about how much money those companies are making. I can't think of the term of the other one.
Well, you know who was interviewed in there was our good friend Peter Garrett from Midnight Oil. And this guy's doing a beat up, but their last tour was done by Frontier. Do you know who Frontier is? That's a multinational. That's not the local Frontier it used to be. But we forgot about that, Peter, didn't we? We just completely forgot, and we were doing a beat up because, well, I suppose it's good for his image to be interviewed for his band. I mean, seriously, the one thing that I do hate about these companies, which I will bring up, is that, this business of these, it's like the Uber pricing and the ticket pricing, where it increases the bigger the demand.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just outrageous. But then that's the band, because the band could be like a Pearl Jam, who would never agree to that kind of stuff. Pearl Jam are very fastidious about their ticket pricing and what the promoters are allowed to charge. And to have ticketing where the price goes up, the greater demand, well, that's just not on. Is the ticket $100? Is it $200? $300? But if I have to wait till I get in the queue and then I'm one of the ones selected and I've got 5 minutes to make a decision, do I want to buy the ticket at $485? That's, to me, that needs to be outlawed. Outlawed. It needs to be in an act of bloody parliament.
I remember the Midnight Oil, one of the bands that were adamant about the ticket prices back in the late 70s, 80s, being too high. So they always kept their ticket prices down for punters.
Well, I don't know whether their last tour was, I can't say that they overpriced. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is, here's a guy criticising a company that is the same kind of company that he did his tour with here in Australia.
Yeah.
Didn't do it overseas. I'd like to know who he toured overseas with. Probably Live Nation for intents and purposes. Anyway, everybody's feathering their own nest, Rob. It gets back to the old statement. How much money is enough money? Who's getting the money? We've got the naive who cry poor. Anyway, that's what I thought about the show. Anyway, on to what we wanted to discuss today, and that was the word genre. Now, Rob, you've researched that word. What does that word mean?
Well, I've got a couple of different sources that I was kind of looking at. I've got them up on my screens here, so I'm sort of looking away. But there's a good article that I found on Google Scholar, which is a little bit more academic than Google, because that's how I like to research, and then I go through the university library as well, so to get my sources, to try and make sure they're a little bit more credible than the random stuff that's out there. It's called a taxonomy of musical genres, right? That word, taxonomy, is a great word. Now, I'd like the abstract. Now, this is about 10 years old, this article, so I was frantically searching for something a little bit more update last night, but I like the intro of this. It goes, the recent progress of electronic music distribution creates a natural pressure for fine-grained musical metadata, okay? The metadata is needed to provide music distribution services which are able to cope with the mere size of music catalogues and the desires of users to access music titles by similarity. In this context, we described a project of a global music title metadatabase and focus in the particular genre descriptor. We analyse existing taxonomies of musical genre as found in the music industry and on the internet, and stress on their inconsistencies. We described a novel musical genre taxonomy based on a few guiding principles and reported on the process of building the taxonomy. Now, there's a lot of words there, I know, but the article goes on to say, and I related to it from when I was a kid, because I'm trying to think genre, because it's very confusing and very different meaning now in today's culture.
Yeah.
But how I understood it, when you go into a record shop and you would look around and you'd have all these different bands all lined up in rows and rows and rows and rows, but they actually had to decide what style of music those bands were. So the record distributors and the record shops used to put labels on them, like blues, rock, pop, jazz, classical. They were pretty simple back then. But, now that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So the concept of genre in music now, to me, emphasises a role in categorising and structuring musical more experiences. It's like people's musical experience now. Genre is not just about music itself. It also encompasses the cultural context, social conventions, and personal experiences associated with it. That's kind of where it's going today. But coming back to the point of Laneway Talks, I think when you mentioned discussing genre this week to me, I thought, well, that's a really good context to have, because for Laneway and Laneway Red, you've got to be able to categorise the music that you have and the artists that you've got. So is that how you sort of picture it, Vince? Is that...
Well, that is correct, but on a bigger scale, Rob, hashtags are so important in all the posts that you do in socials. And hashtags, therefore, require you're required to use genres within hashtags if you're trying to reach the right people. And you just put 2 and 2 together there and see how powerful it is that you select the correct genre to hashtag your socials with in music. Correct?
But how do you decide on what hashtag to use?
Well, yeah, I mean, if I was to say in today's world, I'm going to hashtag Virgin Soldiers as metal, I reckon I'd have a lot of people complaining to me. Hashtag it metal, because I would hashtag it as rock.
See, metal is a very, very dangerous topic for genre.
Yes.
I'll put up a little book that I've got here, Heavy Metal, A Cultural Sociology by Dina Weinstein. It's a fantastic academic read, but the way that metal is split into subgenres is nothing more than frightening, and how defensive people get over their particular subgenre of metal is more based in ego and their desire to be right than specifically a genre, because people go to a lot of extreme lengths to go, well, it's got to be this fast and it's got to be that tempo and it's got to be that pitch and it's got to have this vocal and blah, blah, blah. So,
well, tell me, Rob, go to a band like, let's not use the Virgin Soldiers, let's use Bengal Tigers, right? Now, they did a post the other day, and it's, it's metal, the cult metal band. And you listen to Metal Fetish, their first album or whatever, and mate, there's, in today's genre classification, there's nowhere near metal.
No,
is it a subgenre? You're now calling it a genre, are you?
Yeah, it is. But I mean, you've got to put it into the context of the era. For like the Soldiers were hard rock out of the veins of the Billy Thorpes and the AC/DCs and the pub rock culture. The Bengals adapted what the hair metal era. And I was looking at Rabbit.
Well, hold on. I want to do a visual here for everybody, because I've got my vinyls with me, and one that when you say the hair metal, I'll go to the soft cock rock, right, which is Poison. Poison. Now,
there you go.
Hair rock, I suppose, or hair pop rock.
But it was metal back then.
What do you think of that? And I mean, that was that whole, they thought they were super loud, but they actually weren't, were they?
Well, I went and saw Poison back in the 80s, and I was so disappointed.
Can I tell you a story about Poison?
If you must.
All right,
yes.
I must. I was, at Mushroom, probably this was back in 1988. I think 88 or 87, whenever. If I was this album, let me see, when was this album because we put it out on Liberation, 1987, okay? So I go up to Michael's office, and at that particular time, he's on the phone talking, and he goes, we've got this band on 3XY. 3XY still existed, right? I think it was the last couple of years of 3XY. We've got this band on the AM band here who have got a number, I think it was a top 10, and they'd been in there for like 3 weeks. Now, I think it was going to go to number 1, but it had been in there for 3 weeks, and it didn't look like moving out of the top 10 either. And I think he was talking to whoever we sub-licensed it off in the States. And he goes, I think we're going to have to do something. And if this continues, we'll probably try and get the band over here to tour. And that is the first thing I ever heard about Poison. We'd put it out. Nobody in the office even knew who they were. Did we even listen to it? No. And then he was talking like that, so I, trundle on downstairs, go to the vinyl cupboard and pull out the vinyl of Poison and go play it in my office and have a listen to them go, what I felt was they're okay and a couple of okay songs. I didn't think the singer could sing, but, well, who am I to say anything? And hearing the word, that was the Poison. That's how I was introduced to Poison, Rob.
Brett wouldn't be happy with you about that. Yeah, that's called melodic metal and pop metal in Weinstein's particular genre descriptions I have here in her book. Once again, I'll show you the front.
So you would classify that as pop metal or melodic metal?
Well, as I said, I'm using Dina Weinstein's categorization from her book.
Yeah.
She's an academic, so I like to go with people that have actually done a bit of work on that.
Yeah.
And she terms it here. They're light metal. That's the category that it's under. There's no legitimate established authority, right? Okay, that's the thing we're dealing with.
No, I know that, but you have to make calls, all right?
Yeah, but for me, you'd need to have some sort of weight in your opinion. Otherwise, it just turns into a cacophony of discourse.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm really interested today to learn about this, because it is so important in hashtagging. You can hashtag
absolutely
similar artists, but if you're going to hashtag, let me bring this up for you, right? Let me just get this album. Got a lot of albums here, all right? Okay. Here's one which I reckon you know more about than me. Okay, there it is. Megadeth.
Yes.
All right. And who cares which particular album it is? It's Megadeth. And Megadeth, to me, were considered a really heavy metal, super hard rock.
Yeah, but they're more thrash. Okay, that was where see, for me, because I went through that era with those bands, playing in a band, trying to find our spot. You go back to Mushroom. I mean, we had the A&I guys from Mushroom come down to Power Plant when Peter Blyton was there mixing our album, and we played them Never Too Late, and they just sat there aghast going, we don't know how to label this, we don't know how to market it, and we don't know what to do with it because it doesn't sound Australian. So we were always caught in that void.
No doubt about it. I'll say to any super hard rock band, not pub rock, and let's segregate pub rock, super hard rock band, metal band, or soft cock metal, all right, there is no chance of any success in this country. Never has been and never will be. All right, you have to go to America. And I would definitely put Virgin Soldiers in there, and I would be at Mushroom. Was I at Mushroom when were Mushroom talking to you? What year?
88, 89.
Yeah, well, I was there, right? I was one of the big boys there. So
I think you were in the office when Michael kicked us out of his.
Yeah, but if they had come to me, not that I was in finance, so I wasn't making A&R decisions, but if they had have come to me just from what do you think we can spend on this, right? I would have gone, well, not a lot, because the problem for me was you were not cold chisel.
Hey.
Well, and it's got to be pub rock, because we were so pub rock that they were what we were doing, and that was our kind of venues. And so therefore, where would we get the audience to follow Virgin Soldiers? America or the UK?
Yeah, but I mean, as far as spending money, we'd spend it all. So we'd done the production, we'd done...
No, don't speak, mate. Do not be naive that you spent the money. We are not. We weren't a distribution company. We were a record company. So if we're going to put something out, we want to spend money on it because we want success. So just because you'd recorded it, and it's still going to need a hell of a lot of publicity, promotion, live, touring support, flying you around for interviews. I mean, there's a lot of money involved. And
let me just say, I'm not being naive. That's what we wanted Mushroom for, to do that. And they denied us that, so we had to...
No, we denied you. I could tell you, if I wasn't involved, but if I was involved, I would have denied you, because it is not the genre of music that I would have felt comfortable with promoting in Australia. It was too loud.
But we knew that. We knew we had to go overseas, so we needed the support to be able to get to the next level.
Yeah, we couldn't support overseas. You know, mate, we spent so much money overseas and lost our bloody pants and underpants.
There's your dichotomy, though, isn't it?
Yeah, we couldn't get anything happening overseas.
That's another
market compared to here. We're such a small player that every time we tried, we lost our shirts. You know, I had to go over in... this is the second time I went back. So I suppose it was, 2010 something. So we've got Mushroom International happening over in the UK. And, I've forgotten, the guy from Head of Warmers was heading it up. And we were bleeding money. Michael goes, quick, fly over to London, tell me what's going on. Oh, well, let's go over together and let's see. I go to a board meeting, and I walk out of there with Michael and I say, we need to close tomorrow. The kind of money that was required, we couldn't support. We just weren't big enough. You know? And so I know what you're saying, you needed the company here so that you can get overseas. That's not how it works. It never worked that way, because it never worked for us. You needed to go over there, live over there, and tour over there, and then hopefully be picked up by an American, even an American indie label. I mean, their indie labels are big labels, big. Yeah. And that's how it had to happen. Now, that's a big ask on artists, a big ask. And
absolutely.
The artists are got either girlfriends, or if they're married, you can forget that. It's all over. You got kids, forget it. Your career's over. All right? The pressures of that family life will kill it anyway. And so the band have to do it really early on, and they need to be quite sadistic about, their lives, and that they're going over and they're going to be on their own over there and they're going to do it.
You need to be focused enough. I mean, I think, AC/DC, I'm just rereading Bond, The Last Highway, written by Jesse Fink, and, Bond got to that point with AC/DC after they, conjecture is about Back in Black, the album, Bond had written all the lyrics and music and that for that album, but he was done. He needed a break because they'd worked so hard for so long to get to where they were. He wanted to step back for a bit, and
But you look at someone like that. There's the one in a million always. And AC/DC had cracked Australia. I mean, they were the perfect pub rock band, and they'd reached their pinnacles here back in that day. Today they would have been doing, Rod Laver, but they peaked here, and so they had all that advantage to go over there. Although they had to go over there and, as you read in the book, struggle for those first 2 or 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, they did.
To get where they got to, but it went 1 + 1 = 2. It just was perfect timing all round, and they were so focused, and nothing was going to come in their way. No family issues, nothing.
No, that was the whole regime of the Young Brothers and that corporation. They were determined to succeed at any cost.
If you have a look, right, we'll get back right now to the genres, but if you have a look at what happened there and what we've been talking about for the last 20 episodes, consistency. And you see their music, consistency, don't change the music. Their application to their craft and playing live, consistency, never give up, and put that into today to the social media, what you and me talk about. Consistency, releases, consistency, social media, consistency. The thing that has changed is the live shows, which are so harder to come by till you have an audience, because back then We didn't have the mod cons to distract you. All you could do is go to a gig. That was your entertainment. Now your entertainment is 20 different choices. So there is that correlation, don't you think?
Absolutely. But on that, it's interesting because I look at, once again, Ted Goyer, who's another academic from the States, is talking about how that's all changing now. I'm just trying to look at it. Sorry, I've lost the article now.
What's the basic theme? What's changed? What do you mean?
Oh, he's saying it's more important. Bands make more money out of touring and doing gigs now on any level than they're ever going to make out of streaming music, because streaming music.
I don't disagree with that. Now that's a true statement, and so you might go, well, what did you just say, Vince? You know, you just said that that's not the case. Well, but you have to get to that. You have to get to that level, and it still applies. So on the bottom rung, no, where you're going to play, you can only do some supports, or you're going to play to two people and whatever. And it is harder because the venues don't even put on the nights like they used to back in the 80s, even early 80s and into the late 80s, where the venue would do a Monday night and they'd have three bands on, three nobody bands. And it was just an opportunity to get the band's friends in and get some beer sales on a night when nobody's going to be in there anyway. You don't even have that kind of stuff happening. But I don't disagree with what you just said. Once you get to the level that you've got your socials happening and you've got that following starting to happening, the money is all in the live touring. There's no doubt. Now, we had a meeting re Laneway Red late last week, and this came up about, Spotify, and you've spoken about, and I've said, I think that Spotify is just your marketing tool. You'll never make money out of Spotify unless you're one of the big players. And we spoke about that, and that's Laneway Red is what we're trying to change that with. What we've been able to determine very clearly with Laneway Red, this is inside information, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but is that we're tracking all our socials across all the socials, YouTube, Threads, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. We're tracking it ourselves back at Laneway Red. We're not using their metapixels. We're doing it a different way, right? So, and we're tracking everything. And when we're putting our posts out, we can see directly how they're coming back to the site and what they're listening to, and then what they're exploring on the site, right? So we can see this rich flux of activity from the original post we made. But when I make those posts in the past, and I would go to Spotify and see no pickup whatsoever, or to the video and see no real pickup, and we would go, what the hell, and they're just asking you to throw more and more money. And if you do see a bulge in your activity, say on Spotify, and we went through this example because we've got an artist that's having a big bulge at the moment in that the graph has bulged right up, and we're trying to go dig into it to really get to that audience, which you can't, right? You kind of you can get to a city, but so I go to a city in America and I then try and market to that city, and I've done this before, and you get no results. What we need is of those, 10,000 people that were there, we need to go directly back to them. So with the next song, we need to go directly back to them. There's nowhere that allows you to do this kind of stuff. Anyway, I digress a bit in that what we think is that they throttle everything and they control everything, that you have no idea where your marketing dollars are going, and are you actually hitting the people you want to hit. Now we get back to the genres, Rob, and because all of that marketing is linked to hashtagging or directing towards music lovers of a genre. And so trying to get that in your marketing is so important and it's quite difficult at times when you've got those in-between genres. So if I picked up Megadeth there, but if
that's thrash metal.
If I pick up the quintessential live album of all time, recorded in 1979 by the very famous and very talented UFO, and Strangers in the Night. I've heard that somewhere before. And that double live album, sensational. But how do I categorise UFO?
Hard rock.
So definitely hard rock back then in 79. Is that album hard rock today?
Yeah, my opinion, I think you need to hang on to those particular points in time because they're great reference points. Because what is it that defines hard rock? It's volume, it's rhythm, it's instrumentation. It's heavy blues.
Well, let's dig down a bit more on that. So hard rock. So if I go back to 79 and when I was listening to that in 79, I would have gone, wow, that is so loud and it's just so good. Now, then I get to 2024 and I'm looking for hard rock. And I suppose the same principles are there. I want it loud. I want it in your face because of technology. The music can be delivered in a much higher volume without distortion. There's no doubt about that. It can be clearer. I can hear the individual instruments a lot clearer. So therefore, is it about the guitar blaring really loud or whatever? So I have this different perspective. This is for me. And I go, right, well, I go back to 79 UFO live, there's hard rock. And I go to hard rock today, I go, well, I expect it to be more in my face and quite harder.
Now, the recording techniques these days are completely different. You're comparing the sound of a band that was recorded for a completely different listening medium in that era, because it was designed to be able to put on your record player and sound loud and good back then, and they were limited in the musical spectrum that they would be able to record in, and plus being live as well. How much of it was live and how much was studio magic after the live recording. But these days, there's a bigger musical sound spectrum that they can use with compression and the loudness wars that we've talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
You can't compare something that was back then in hard rock to what it is now, because they're completely different recording process and the style of music might be the same.
Yeah, I can accept that. So therefore, I would still class them as hard rock.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what? It's important to me because a lot of the stuff we put out is heritage music, and therefore I do have to classify it. So if I'm marketing Virgin Soldiers, it's going to be hard rock.
It is, yes.
I'm still going to go to that hard rock audience, right? So if we then go to, now let's think about, I reckon because rock has sustained the test of time and is a form of music, a style of music that has kept some form of similarity right throughout. But what happens when I'll put up here, I'll put up local Adelaide bands, Order of Decay. Okay, so I've just put that up, Order of Decay, and they are straight out, shouting, just guitars going crazy. It is just full on. So I suppose I would call it thrash. Thrash.
What album is that? Is that Mortification Rights or what album is it?
Well, what album?
Yeah.
This one is Order of Decay. It's just Order of Decay. It's their first record. Then they had a Order of Decay, Bite or Be Bitten EP.
But that Bandcamp says they're Scottish dark doomed death metal behemoths.
No, they're from Adelaide. Because it's Kelly Hewson, who's with other bands we've got, and he comes from Adelaide, and this was when he was in Adelaide. So that, and then he formed another band. I'll pull that out, and I'll put that there, and that's called Grunter, and they were very similar in style. Grunter, out of Adelaide. Okay, so it's, and then if I've got that, then I'll go to another one. All right, let's do this one. My deal. Okay, I'm putting up New York Dolls.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, talking.
All right. Well, that's because you know them. Order of Decay, I feel, because I'm mentioning a band you haven't heard. But I put up New York Dolls. So New York Dolls were considered quite punkish, weren't they, with a glam flair, would you say?
Absolutely, yeah. That was the nature of that time, wasn't it?
Yeah. And would you still consider them a punk band now? Would you mark them as a punk band?
No, punk's completely different now.
Right.
It's got no relation to the punk that it was in the 70s.
Right. So there we've got one genre which has completely changed in a sense.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. And there's so many subgenres, once again, of punk as well. It's very, very confusing. And it's got a lot, because I think of Sex Pistols, Ed Kennedy's, Devo were, kind of another cross-pollinated era of that as well, but they were more experimental electronic, but they were labelled as punk to be marketed. So, I've got lots of albums by those bands of that era because I went through that skateboard era when I had my surf shop.
Yeah.
And that was the music we used to go around and do demos around Adelaide, and we used to play that music through our 4/4-way PA under the ramps.
But I think what's important though is that we've found a genre which has a completely different meaning 35, 40 years later. It's morphed into something not, I suppose I can't say different, but it is morphed into something around the bend from the original, what we would have called punk. If we were to say, has jazz rock changed? I don't think jazz rock has changed at all from Tom Scott and the LA Express in 73 to 2024.
Yeah, once again, it's a difficult one to define. I mean, Dave Weckl was in last week, wasn't he? Or the week before.
Yeah.
And I mean, Dennis Chambers is coming out as well with, who's that? With John McLaughlin or something coming out. Is that jazz rock? Mahavishnu Orchestra, jazz rock?
Yes, Mahavishnu Orchestra. Yeah, I suppose a form of progressive jazz rock.
Yeah, see, that genres start to split now, don't they?
Yeah.
That was, because of all the influences, everything was sort of moulding together, and that was the beauty of having it genreless. Is like, well, keep it going to moulding all these different styles and have your own style. I mean, how many humans are on the planet? Is that how many genres there are in music?
Look at so we pull it back to genres how important is that tag of genre, and can we categorise it correctly in 2024?
I've got here, because I looked up some current research, and now I've got genres ranked by streams on Spotify. Now, there's two different lists that they've got here. 2016, and I'll list the top 10. You've got pop, dance pop, rap, rock, pop rock, trap, neo-mellow, post-teen pop, and hip-hop, right? They're the top 10. Now, in 2023, the top 10 has changed. It's pop, rap, rock, urban Latino, hip-hop, trap Latino, reggaeton, filmy, dance pop, and Latin pop. That's the top 10 from 2023 Spotify.
I'm already spinning, you know.
I know, but that's it's like that's Spotify top 10.
And, you know, those tags are so important to that young audience.
And you really have to try and define that. But there was, and it says in this article too, which is fascinating, there was something like, let me get my cursor to come back here. How many were there when they started? There were, Spotify in 2016 had 1,482 genres in 2016. Today, it's 6,000.
And it's incomprehensible, because how could there be those kind of, they couldn't even contemplate how you could get to that number with a genre.
Yeah, I know. It's just split it so much. That's what I mean. You know, metal subgenres I don't think they'd be that massive, but because it's just a small sort of part of it. But
are they important in marketing because they become so micro that they're not important because you're trying to build a new audience, so you can't be micro?
But do you take Spotify as the measuring stick in the industry for streaming? That's the biggest.
You do. That they represent in Australia and outside of America 70%. In America, they're more like 50%. And so you do take it as, because they do represent a lot of the streams worldwide. But, you know, who comes up with those tags, those genres? Who comes up with those?
They're talking about AI. It needs to categorise it to be able to get its, I'll use, head around it, or its, however AI thinks. So that's why I think it's blown out to 6,000. But I just want to say in the top 20 now, whereas 2016 modern rock, classic rock, and now alternative metal weren't even in it. But now they're in, what is that? Position 14, modern rock, 15, classic rock, 16, alternative metal. So that has pumped up, and it seems to be more popular now than it was in 2016. So
are those old tags disappearing? Are they going to, like, classic rock as we all get older? You know, is that form of a supergroup in that genre going to disappear because it just won't exist anymore?
Yeah. Well, the bands won't exist, but I mean their music will still exist. But how do you measure who listens to it at home? You can't. So that's a good thing.
We're trying to get to understanding your audience, say, of your 20 to 30s, because they're the next generation, or whether it be the 13 to 17s where they're ingrained with what music they like, is trying to decipher in there and what percentage are listening to metal, or what percentage are listening to hard rock or classic rock. There must be a percentage. Is that percentage enough to even sustain that genre going forward?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Vince. It'd be good to research that a bit more, I think.
It's a completely changing landscape. I wonder, therefore, what they're doing at university in the studies in these areas, because it's so important, because it will shape the future. So surely someone's researching it and coming up with a thesis on it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Because it represents a lot of money, doesn't it? It represents where the money will be flowing into what sector of society. It does, doesn't it? It's just where the money's going.
Well, I was thinking that when I was reading that article that I read out this morning. I mean, that's from the University of France. Completely different area. Daniel Cazale, up there, Cazale.
Yeah.
Sony Music France is the one that co-wrote that as well. But I would like to see some sort of research funded at university to be able to delve deeper into the categorisation of genres and how it will assist musicians in, continuing.
We've just discussed how important it is, what you just said, the characterisation of genres, because it relates to how you go to market with hashtagging, which is the next important thing, or tagging.
Yes.
And so it's worth so much money that it needs researching. But is anybody doing it, God, it's amazing, isn't it?
I don't know. It'd be interesting to talk to people at the respective universities throughout Australia that have a popular music course at a postdoc level, really.
Yeah.
Because this is a postdoctoral research subject. It's not really a topic of research that you put in an undergraduate stream because they're sort of taught those things. So, and the postdoc researchers that I've spoken to, Benjamin Hillier from the University of Tasmania is brilliant on his categorisation of subgenres in metal. That's what his research is. I know in the University of New South Wales and University of Queensland, they have a popular music course and a good program up there. So I might have a bit of a dig into that.
It's a really important, not just a hearsay. It needs complete treatment because it represents money.
It does, Vince. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, it does.
Anyway, all right. And look, while I'm here, I did have some other albums I did want to show our audience. So then I've got Nazareth, and this is their second album called Exercises. And anyway, it was a complete departure from the first album where they're more bluesy. This became more of a soft rock. But then they went on to, if I show another Nazareth album, they go on to that. So suddenly we've got a cover which is essentially a metal cover. So this one's called No Mean City, and the cover depicts a metal band, which they weren't. Then you go to bands like Foghat, right? Now, Foghat were essentially straight out rhythm and blues.
Yeah,
12 bar.
Yeah, blues rock, great band.
Yeah, just 12 bar. So they're in that status quo category, or status quo different?
No, status quo. They are definitely that 12 bar blues hard rock. I think Quo was one of the loudest bands I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, really?
Parfitt came out, and Rossi, when the band came out, I remember him hitting like I don't know whether it was an E chord or whatever it was. My chest shook.
Wow.
From the volume that those guys had. I saw them 3 years in a row, and I think it was 73, 74, 75, or 75, 76, whatever. And they were loud, man.
Yeah.
But it was great.
Saw them live.
It was great. The whole crowd just started jumping and didn't stop for like an hour and a half.
Well,
fantastic.
What I'm showing up now is Frankie Miller, Full House.
Oh,
now
fun.
Yeah. And Frankie Miller, all that comes to mind with me is English pub rock rhythm and blues.
Yeah.
Straight up rhythm blues. Okay. So that's in your category of your Freeze, your Bad Companies, all those guys, right? Yeah. All those guys. So I just wanted to put again, because I know those genres, I suppose it's what I know. Trying to learn the new genres, well, you just enlightened me. I've got a lot of work to do. I need to go and learn about 5,997 other genres.
I know.
I'm
having
no.
There's another one here from a blog that I've looked up. What music genres have been trending in 2024? And the top 10 or top 9 here are Afro Beats is number 1.
Oh, right.
Amapiano. Never heard of it. 80s style pop.
Well, we know what that would be.
Rock.
Yeah.
Metal. And then shoegaze. Interesting.
What?
Indie. classic house and techno and country. Yeah, shoegaze. The guys at work, there's a category on Spotify that's shoegaze, and it's quite interesting.
What would you categorise it as?
I was kind of stoner dreamy.
Okay, all right.
That's
I mean, mate, it's mind-boggling. Look, it's a big topic, and as I say, I think it's worth a lot of money out there. Okay, so that we could talk for I could talk for another hour on genres, but we've got to stop. But like usual, I go, right, how are we going with your new video? I got a sneak peek the other day. Yours, Michael Hill's new video.
Absolutely.
And that's looking good. It's just classic rock, isn't it? Really? His style.
Yeah, that's kind of bluesy and dark. I like.
Yeah.
Well, there's a bit of humour in that clip as well.
Yeah.
The beauty with Michael Hill, and I must say that he's a professional actor, and he's a producer and director. So the team of people that, we're all asking our friends to help us out with this project, which, thank you very much, to get it off the ground. But yeah, you can see the quality of thought that one has gone into the lyric, but two in the way that he's portrayed the lyric. So I really enjoy working.
Is a lot of this recorded at your place?
The actual recording was done at Sody Pop Studios.
Right, so it's in studio. All right.
Great studio here. The filming of Michael.
Are you the drummer on there?
No, I'm not.
Right. Okay. So, but anyway, you're heavily involved, so we, got that. And live gig wise, what's going on?
For me, I'm in pageant mode at the moment, which a lot of people around the country probably wouldn't know what that is, but we do the Christmas pageant every year. We played through the streets of Adelaide to 300,000 people, and I've got a 15-piece drum corps and 25 dancers that I've written a whole bunch of music for, and we parade through the streets for an hour and a bit. So that's where my head's at the moment as far as live gigs go. So.
Well, I did get another drumming tutorial to my SMS. So, yes. God, that was hard. That was hard. That was hard. That was hard. I looked at that and just went, oh, my God, I'll need to practice 6 hours a day for the next 3 months.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I mean, on that front, I don't want to bang on too much, but I've gone up to, I've got over 120 subscribers now, which is great because over the past 3 months, I've doubled where I started at, which is good. So that's working. But I'm getting about 500 views per short that I'm putting up on YouTube. So that's experiment working.
Yeah, just keep it going. It'll just keep growing. All right. So, well, that's all good news. That's great. So Rob's Drum Shed. From my perspective, it's all Laneway Red. The more social posts we can do, the more we can push Laneway Red out there. We are getting activity on Laneway Red from all around the world. Our biggest territory is America, which is astonishing. But, you name a country, we're getting people visiting from there. So we are starting to grow. We've got so much work ahead of us. We have a whole 12 months of consistency.
Yep.
And on top of that, we've got a lot of new artists coming on. So to Laneway Music, which then comes across to Laneway Red. And then we've got a few artists who have joined Laneway Red internationally. So again, it is just consistency. So we're pretty stoked. And it's refining everything now. It's refining the report so that we can dig deeper and track everything so that we know where things are happening. If someone was to have a hit because they, had 10,000 streams, we can really dig down and give that artist support so that they can market. Remember, Laneway Red is a free site, which the only area where you would pay is if you purchased a download. In the future, once we get the mass, the streaming will be supported with advertising, and the artists will participate with us in that on a 50-50 basis. And what we're looking for here is transparency, which is not which is not applicable, that word, to any other site. Transparency doesn't exist. We're learning a lot because we're starting to see how untransparent all the other sites are and how we would feel manipulating they are. Is what they
Why is that? Here's the question. Why aren't these sites transparent?
Well, because you've got to spend more and more money to try and get the results that you want. So there's no way I'm going to give you transparency and dig right down and allow you to go directly back to your fans, direct fans, because that's too easy. And the more I hold you back from that, the more money you'll spend to try and get to them. So if you've got $1 million, you've probably got a good chance of being very successful. If you've got $100, you're not going to be super successful at all because they're going to allow you to get to one person. The rest of them will probably be irrelevant people who would never play your song again. So I think
very fair.
I think I've been getting some posts from people on Spotify, not posts, advertising from people on Spotify who are advertising on there, and the music has no relevance to what I'm listening to. So that connection doesn't work. Their connection doesn't work, and that's what's really important. So, if you want to advertise to me as a punter on Spotify, well, I need that music to be pretty damn similar to the stuff I'm listening to, and that's not happening.
Yeah.
So it's all that kind of stuff, But again, I can't say too much publicly. It's never going to happen, Rob. But off screen we can talk. But yeah, it's enlightening. I got to tell you that it's enlightening to what's going on and what we're seeing. Hopefully, we'll be here in a couple of years, and we are talking on a much bigger level and supporting artists and being true to artists. Okay.
Yeah, it's good. It'd be good to reflect.
Yeah,
back on these moments in 2 years' time.
Yeah, it will be. Just as much with Rob Strumshed, I'd love to scoot ahead 12 months and then go, has that now become 1,200 subscribers?
Yeah, let's hope so.
Some may say that's not a lot. I say that's a lot because that gives you the ability on YouTube to market it and whatever.
Yeah.
And then it just grows exponentially. So a lot ahead for Rob Strumshed, that's for sure.
Yeah. Thanks for the support. I appreciate it.
All right, mate. Been good talking to you.
You too, Vince. Cheers.
And we'll talk to you next week, okay?
Yeah. Have a good week, people. Cheers.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.